I'm Andrew Givens, and this is not my C-suite office. I don't have such a thing. But today we're going to do something really interesting, a bit new and a bit different. We're going to talk through my very favourite activity, Reds and Blues. It's wonderful. It gets people going. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Jacky, who's going to take control of this whole thing.
Oh, they take control of this whole thing. I'll do the best.
Meaning take control of me.
Yeah, that's like herding cats. That is. So yes, Reds and Blues. Now I've done this activity before with groups, with leadership groups actually, and found it a fascinating observation on human nature. So, I'm glad we're sharing this because I think it has real value.
Yeah.
In terms of communication and negotiation, things like that. So, but you've used it a lot more often than I have.
Hundreds of times.
I'm going to be grilling you, asking you lots of questions about.
Get it out there, show it to people. They don't want to hear us talking about it. They want to see it. So not the task sheet.
Okay, then. So let me share my screen.
Okay.
Have a look at some instructions at least to start with. So, Andrew, here it is. This is sort of the template, if you like, that you'd start off with.
Yep.
Talk me through how you would go about introducing this to a group.
Okay. It's important, and excuse me, it's important I get my voice back. It's important that this is understood. It's a very straightforward task. That's all there is to it. There's no more than this. And yet within this lies complexity, different layers of complexity. And without making people feel daft, it's important to ensure they really thoroughly understand it in the two groups that they will be in when they split. So bear with me, because what I always say to people is, I will read this out to you, because if I don't, I'm not going to be satisfied that everybody's fully understood it. The last thing I want is people saying, yeah, I got it. And then you go into the two groups and think, whoa, we got this right. I'm thinking, oh, gee. So this is what I do. I say, this is a red-blue exercise. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. In the context that we're working in, Jacky, it could be in a team working context, leadership. Most often for me, it's conflict management or negotiation. Now, I reckon by now people have read it 3 times, so I'm going to try and catch up with it and talk through it fairly quick. So if I talk it through, Jacky, and if you feel the need to wave to me and say stop at this point, otherwise we'll have a bit of a go afterwards. So I say, everybody, bear with me. I'm going to read out to you what it says. This is an exercise played in 10 rounds. The objective of the exercise is for your team to finish with the highest possible positive score. On each round, you can nominate either red or blue. Points are then scored as follows. Everyone's got one of these sheets in front of them. I don't go through that. I said, there's the scoring table. I then say, there will be 10 rounds. Sorry, but it is relevant to read it out like this. The last 2 rounds, 9 and 10, will score double. This is where it gets important. You will not know what the other team has nominated on each round until you have made your choice, nor will they know what you have nominated. After both teams have made their choice on each round, the facilitator will tell each team what has been nominated and what the scores are. Now, typically, that's done with the team split up, separated so they can't overhear each other, between 2 doors, same room difficult, same room you can hear. So it's important if we can to split people up into 2 different rooms. I then say there'll be an opportunity for an inter-team negotiation after round 4 and again after round 8. However, a negotiation can only take place at the request of both teams. Then I say this is important. That's why it's in bold. That's why it's in capitals. Remember, the objective is for your team, A or B, to finish with the highest possible positive score. Now, I then say, have you all got that? If I see a couple of faces, I might go through it again. But it's so important to ensure that people have got it in the 2 teams they'll be by the time they start. Then you've got to be careful, and I'll let you in a sec, then you've got to be careful that people don't ask too many questions that give away what might be their strategy. Because 1 or 2 people caught on straight away and say, oh, well, if you do this, what about that? Hang on, that's the sort of thing you should talk about in your teams. So, Jacky, just from that explanation and what you see on the sheet, what's it worth picking out that I just might take for granted that you more objectively see?
Well, I think that one of the glaring things, I mean, when I've done this exercise with people, is that it doesn't matter how much you read these things out to them and how often you tell them what the objective is.
Yes.
It never lands.
And we know that at the point of this, but we play it with a straight face, because you're right. One of the issues that comes out of this typically is no matter how many times I emphasize the objective is for your team, team A, team B, to finish with the highest possible positive score. what we're getting at here, everybody listening, is this is an exercise that very often the highest scores are gained by collaboration, not competition. We don't tell people this. We let them find it out for themselves.
Yeah, and sadly, society is rooted in competition rather than collaboration. So inevitably, you get into this negative spiral of win-lose, don't you?
You absolutely do. This invites people. This invites people. Well, when I say invite, this invites people to take whatever route they choose. It doesn't lead people down a certain way. And sometimes in the debrief, that's what I'm told. Oh, well, it was geared towards this, wouldn't it, if they all fell out and get a very poor score? So no, it wasn't. And I can show you in a minute a couple of hundred. Well, I usually give just 100 or so sprinkled about to say, look, there's no pattern here. Some people went red. Some people went blue-red. You weren't told and channeled down a route. You chose to go down one because this is what it does. It's real. This is what I like about it so much. So many of these things are, you are an astronaut and you're on the moon. Oh, get lost. You are a supermarket manager. No, you're not. But you are a real person and you do make choices over whether you collaborate or compete.
Yeah, and invariably people will do. I've seen people would rather lose.
Definitely.
Than do the win-win.
But lose less heavily than the other losers. This is something we might get into on the second of these recordings, because this one is really just about process. How do you do it? Yeah. We knew there'd be too much to get into the issues, the variations that I've used, and the issues, and we've just been hinting at some of them that can come out of this. So that's the process. Essentially, once people have got an understanding of what they're being asked to do, they're then physically split up. It's important they're physically split up, that they can't overhear each other, because all they'll be asked to do initially for 2 minutes, that's what I say to people, I'm never too bothered about 2 minutes and a half, whether it's 3, but I say indicatively you've got 2 minutes to make your first round score. Now in the first round, of course, they've got nothing to go on. They haven't got any history of other rounds to go off. So they're literally sat there at a table, or sometimes just standing in a corridor or in a kitchen. I've used all of the, it's like sometimes. And so basically, 2 teams are split up. Teams of 1 I've used before, who really stuck. But typically it works really well with a team of 5 or 6, never 10 or 12 in each team. So, and it is a 2-team exercise. It's not 3 or more. So they're there and they get there and say, everyone understand what we're trying to do? And you sometimes see someone who doesn't, and you try and explain it to them, make sure that they're all involved. Otherwise, if people don't understand from the start, they can say, oh, I don't get it. And they just sit it out. So you have to watch out for that sort of thing.
I mean, you can't have multiple teams of 2, though, does it? You can, no. If you have bigger groups, you can have multiple teams of 2.
Yeah, I've done that too, parallel. So essentially you're paired up. But you're right, I've done it with about 36. That was hard work because there's so much going on. Have I got this right? Can you tell me if we... Oh, no. So you're right. It's hard work to have a series of double teams, if you like, but it's a pair or 2 pairs. It's a pair of teams at a time.
Okay. The other thing, I've run this in the past, and the only person, because I've run it as part of the leadership program, the only person I've briefed and I've read is the leader. So not to the team. I've read it to the leader, and the leader then has gone back and had to explain using.
Absolutely. There's so many variations to this, and some of them only come to you, you collectively, not you or me, but anyone using this, when you're doing, I think next time I'll do this, or what, for instance, I very often use it twice, as I might explain in the second one about, have you learned something? Well, let's prove it. So what we got here, we've got 2 teams of people separated doing a very simple task. The first round, they're simply saying red or blue. Now, some teams are so surreptitious in their scoring, are paranoid about being overheard, they will point to a blue thing or a red thing, might be a pen or something, or they write it down. You've got to maintain the trust of each team by making it clear that you're nobody's side and you're being certain to keep them, say, I've opened the door now, so I'm shutting the door, keep quiet, and this sort of stuff, and that they all like that. So they make a selection. It's red or it's blue. Can you put a scoring sheet up for us, please, Jacky? It's very simple and straightforward. So they look at the task. Remember, the objective is for your team to finish with the highest possible positive score. Highest possible positive score. Now, the only other piece of paper to this is this. And that's where the teams keep, and you keep, it's important you keep a record yourself. Don't rely on one of the other teams. Of round 1, let's say, for example, they say, okay, we'll go red. Okay, and the other team say, well, let's go blue, because I can see the point of this. If you go blue, you're going to score more, aren't you? So if, for instance, you went to the one team and said, we go red, thank you very much. I'll go to the other team. I won't tell them what you've scored. I'll let you know the two scores when I've got them together. Red and blue, scroll it back up for us. Red, blue scores this. So whichever team is A, whichever team is B, they need to be clear about that. Red and blue will score +3. Red and blue, I can't read it as well. A red and blue will score +6, -6. Now, that's interesting because that gives the +6 team a front foot from the start. There's lots of issues here that are relative to negotiation. You've got leverage, you've got power. So if you say, open the doors and say, red, blue, the blue team say, red, blue, we go, oh, we're ahead. Told you we'd be, blah, blah, blah. And then the team who scored blue is going, oh, no, look, there's 12-point difference already. Now, I've known certain teams saying, oh, well, might as well give up now. You don't know, but usually they're in for a fight. No, you do intervene. As a facilitator, the temptation sometimes say, hey, come on, chin up, you can do this. Why don't you do that? No, stay right out of it. It's important you lead them to it.
And it's interesting how people, particularly groups, I think, can get into a pattern of behavior. They can connect that one thing, as you said, as being well, that's it, or they connect it with being, right, we're on a roll here.
Absolutely.
And start making the same decisions over and over again, even though they're poor decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you're working interpersonally, you might assess things like behavior breeds behavior. They did this to you, you'll do that to them. If you're blued, you very often blue back, for instance. And it's frankly daft to keep going red if the other teams in the pattern are going blue. You're getting hammered every time. And then after round 4 comes an opportunity for negotiation. I remind people at round 3 of the proximity of that, so they're ready for it. And to be honest, I usually encourage negotiation because dialogue, contact makes more likely a collaborative outcome, which is positive, than having no outcome. Or having no contact, there's always an outcome. So I always encourage it. So there's a bit of complexity. They make their choices. They make them separately. They're informed together. They're given a short period of time, not 20 minutes each, but typically 2, at most 3. And then they're given 2 opportunities at round 4 and round 8 to negotiate. Round 9 and 10 count double. That's important because that can be a game changer. You can catch up a lot of points. So essentially, that's the process. Now, I'm holding back from all the little voices in my head are saying, don't forget to tell them about this and tell them about David at Linlithgow and do all of this and the team that fell out and the team that actually split and all those sorts of things. We'll do that another time.
Stop you, because I think we've done enough today. What I hope that those people watching, listening to this will have got is that it's a relatively straightforward exercise, providing you follow the rules.
Yeah.
And you make sure that there's clarity around the options and the rules. Yeah. But the impact of it can be enormous. And what drops out of the activity as it progresses, but also the debrief afterwards, is fascinating. So
it absolutely is.
Leave that till the next session.
We will. Okay, I'm not going to say all of those things you just said again. Again, all I'd say is it's great. It is my favorite because it brings out reality, people behaving as they really are. And that's hard to get to sometimes. Maybe we'll pretend to be something else or play a role that isn't them. You cannot hide away from the fact that this is people behaving as they really are. Thanks for that, Jacky. Sorry I talked so much, but there's a lot to say and I try to squeeze as much in. I hope that does clarify the process.
Obviously very excited about it.
Oh, brilliant. Part 2 will be all about the lessons learned. Lots of rude words in the 4-page quotes I've taken, such as you twisting shits and silly buggers. I told you we should have done that. It's brilliant. It'll give you a feel for how people react when they're doing this and the various variations. You've mentioned one already that you can use in this. So stay tuned and I hope it's helpful to people.